In 2021, China banned the super tall skyscraper. Wow. By law, almost no city was allowed to build anything over 500 meters ever again. So explain this. Somewhere in the fog-covered mountains of southern China, there are plans for a tower twice that height, 1,000 meters of steel that does not rise straight up, but spirals around an entire mountain. Whoa. The one structure the whole country was just told it could never have. Someone wants it built anyway. The reason why is the part nobody is talking about. So before we go any further, I want to ask you something. Take a moment and tell me your answer down in the comments. I read every single one. And if you enjoy stories like this, take a second to subscribe, so you never miss what we uncover next. Now, let me show you why this all began. Let us start with the building itself. The dream version, the one in the renderings that keep going viral. The idea sounds insane, and oh, it truly is. A normal skyscraper rises straight up from a flat foundation. Steel core in the middle, floors stacked around it like a deck of cards. Simple, predictable. But this proposed structure was supposed to do something no engineer had ever finished before. Instead of fighting the mountain, it would hug it. The lower floors would anchor directly into the bedrock of the slope. The middle would spiral outward, following the natural curve of the ridge, and the upper third would lean away from the mountain entirely, suspended over nothing but air in a very long fall. Oof! If you have ever felt your stomach drop looking down from a tall building, imagine standing in a glass room that is hanging out over a canyon. That sway, by the way, is not a flaw. It is the whole secret. And we will come back to it, because the way they plan to control that sway is the part that genuinely should not be possible. But before we get there, you need to understand why a building like this would even be attempted. And this is where the first twist comes in. Because believe me, China did not start dreaming about mountain towers for fun. They were running out of something: flat land. The cities of southern and southwestern China, places like Chongqing, are built in some of the most brutal terrain on the planet. Mountains everywhere, rivers slicing through valleys, fog so thick that for months of the year you cannot even see across the street. There is simply nowhere to build outward. So Chinese engineers did the only thing left to do. They started building into the mountains, and here is the part most people do not realize. Wow, they have already been doing it for years. You have just never seen it framed this way. In Chongqing, there is a residential building so tall and so strange that a passenger train runs straight through the middle of it. The train enters one side of an apartment block on the 6th floor, passes through a hollow concrete sleeve built right into the structure, and exits the other side, and the people living above it report that they barely hear a thing. There is a building in the same city where the rooftop of one tower is at street level for the road behind it, because the road behind it is on a completely different mountain. People walk out of their 80th floor window and step onto solid ground. Your phone says you are at ground level. Your eyes say you are about to die. So the idea of building that ignores gravity, that treats a mountain as part of the architecture, is not science fiction in China. It is Tuesday, which makes the 1,000-meter tower seem almost believable. Almost, until you hit the wall that nobody saw coming. Here is the twist that changes the entire story. That ban I mentioned at the start was not a small thing. A national directive came down that effectively forbade most cities from building any new tower over 500 meters, and put severe limits on anything over 250 meters. Read that again. At the exact moment when these viral 1,000-meter mountain towers started appearing online, the country supposedly building them had just made it illegal to build them. So now we have a mystery. So either the renderings you are seeing are a fantasy, or someone, somewhere, has a reason to build the one thing the entire country was just told it cannot have. And the reason China banned these towers in the first place is the key to understanding everything. Why would a country famous for building the tallest, the biggest, the most jaw-dropping structures on Earth suddenly slam on the brakes? Phew, it was not about money, not really. It was about three things, and each one is a ticking clock. The first is fire. When a building rises 1,000 meters into the sky, no fire truck ladder on Earth can reach the top. If a fire breaks out on the 700th floor, or they are nothing. Oof! The second is the wind. The higher you go, the more violent and unpredictable the wind becomes. At 1,000 meters, the wind at the top can be moving in a completely different direction than the wind at the bottom, twisting the building like someone wringing out a wet towel. And the third, the one that keeps engineers awake at night in this part of China, because southwestern China sits on top of some of the most active earthquake faults in the world. And that is where this story stops being about a pretty building and starts being about survival. Think about what an earthquake does. The ground does not just shake up and down. It whips back and forth, sometimes several feet in a matter of seconds. Oof! A normal building on flat ground has a fighting chance because the whole foundation moves together. But now, picture our mountain tower. The bottom is anchored into bedrock on a slope. The middle spirals out. The top hangs over a valley. When the earthquake hits, every part of that building wants to move in a different direction at the same time. The cantilevered top, with all its weight hanging out over empty air, the forces twisting through that structure would be enough to snap a normal skyscraper in half like a dry stick. 1,000-meter tower in an earthquake zone hanging off a mountain in a country that just banned tall buildings. Game over. Except this is exactly the problem that China has quietly spent the last decade learning how to solve. And the way they solve it is honestly a little terrifying. To keep a super tall building from tearing itself apart, engineers use something called a tuned mass damper. If you have never heard of it, prepare to have your mind slightly rewired about how skyscrapers actually work. Near the top of the tallest towers on Earth, there is a secret, a giant weight, sometimes a steel ball the size of a small house, sometimes hundreds of tons of metal, hanging from cables or floating on a cushion of fluid. When the wind pushes the building one way, this enormous weight swings the opposite way, canceling out the motion. The building leans left, the weight leans right, and the two forces fight each other to a standstill. In the Shanghai Tower, the second tallest building in the world, this damper is a 1,000-ton sculpture that moves with the building during storms. People pay money to go and watch it, and for a mountain tower that twists and cantilevers, you would not need one of these, each one fighting a different part of the sway. All of them controlled by computers making thousands of tiny adjustments every second, holding a kilometer of steel steady against the sky. It is a machine pretending to be a building, because here is where the official story and the rumors split apart. The viral version says this is a luxury tower, a vertical city, apartments and shopping and hotels stacked into the clouds. China just banned these towers, partly because they are seen as wasteful vanity projects. So why would they secretly build the most extreme one ever, in the mountains, away from the cameras? Oof, what if the mountain is not just the foundation? What if the mountain is the point? Because there is a second kind of construction happening across China that does not show up in tourism videos. Inside mountains, not on them. China has been carving out vast underground spaces, data centers buried under rock to keep them cool and protected, research facilities placed thousands of meters deep to block out cosmic radiation, and infrastructure designed to survive things that surface buildings cannot. The interesting question is not whether the glass tower is real. It is what might be hidden inside the mountain it is folding around. Now, I want to be honest with you because this is where a lot of videos would lie. There is no confirmed finished 1,000-meter tower spiraling around a mountain in China right now. The most dramatic renderings you see online are concepts, proposals, and in some cases, pure imagination. But here is why this story still matters, and why you should not click away. Because almost every individual piece of that impossible building is already real, somewhere, right now. The mountain integrated architecture is real. Sitting in Chongqing, the buildings with trains running through them are real. The 1,000-ton stabilizers fighting the wind are real, swinging inside the Shanghai Tower as you watch this. The underground mega facilities carved into mountains are real. The world-leading tunnel boring machines that can hollow out a mountain are real. And China builds the biggest ones on Earth. The only thing that has not happened yet is someone connecting all of these proven pieces into a single, magnificent structure. And the question is not if, it is who and when and how close they already are. And here is something most people never stop to consider. Oh, how do you even build something like this in the first place? You cannot just pour concrete a kilometer into the sky and hope it holds. Every single floor of a super tall tower has to carry the crushing weight of everything above it, and near the base of a 1,000-meter structure, the pressure is almost unimaginable. The concrete at the bottom has to be strong enough that a single block of it could hold the weight of dozens of cars stacked on top of each other. And to lift the steel and concrete up to where the work is happening, you do not use cranes bolted to the ground. You use climbing platforms, enormous robotic decks that grip the unfinished tower and pull themselves upward floor by floor, building the building beneath their own feet as they rise. China pioneered some of the fastest versions of these systems on Earth, machines that can add an entire new floor in a matter of days, working through fog and rain and night. Now imagine pointing that same technology not straight up, but along the curve of a mountain. The platform does not just climb, it spirals, it twists as it rises, and suddenly the impossible building does not need a miracle. It needs a machine that already exists, told to move in a slightly different shape. There is one more piece to this puzzle, and it is the quietest one. A building that hangs out over a valley has a problem that a normal tower does not. Balance. Every kilogram on the cantilevered side, the side floating over empty air, has to be answered by weight on the other side, the side anchored deep into the mountain. Get it wrong, and the whole structure wants to tip, slowly, invisibly, over years, leaning further and further until something gives. So engineers play a game most people never think about. They use the heaviest parts of a building, the water tanks, the machinery, the structural cores, as counterweights, positioning them like a tightrope walker holding a pole. And in the most advanced designs, that balance is not even fixed. The building is not just standing there. It is alive. It is constantly correcting itself. It is the thing that turns a fantasy into something an engineer can actually believe in. And that is the twist underneath the twist. The 1,000-meter mountain tower is not a lie. Every super tall building China finishes teaches them something new. Every earthquake their structures survive adds another page to a playbook that no other country on Earth is writing as fast. The 500-meter ban did not kill the ambition, it redirected it. If you cannot go higher in the open air where everyone can see, you go sideways into the mountains, into the rock, into places where the rules are different and the cameras do not point. Some engineers will tell you a 1,000-meter tower is impossible. The same thing was said about a building a train could pass through. The same thing was said about a tower that sways a meter in the wind and does not fall. The same thing was said about a skyscraper that twists 120 degrees as it rises. And that one? That one is already finished, standing in Shanghai, glittering against the skyline, daring the rest of the world to keep up.